This week's Parsha Devarim starts off the last book of the Torah, which is Moshe's farewell to Israel. The Torah frames the time and place of Moshe's address and then describes the start of his oration as Ho'il Moshe be'er et Torah hazot. Moshe started to expound this teaching. The Torah uses the word be'er to describe Moshe's method of instruction. Be'er et Torah hazot. While today we might use this word be'er to mean to explain or to clarify, it was most unusual for the Torah to use it. So what message is the Torah trying to convey to us about Moshe's speech to Israel by using this unusual word? As I said, the word be'er means to make clear or to give clarity, and some commentators definitely had this understanding of the word in mind when they painted the backdrop of the word in its context. Rabbeinu Bachya, for instance, makes the point that the Torah had been given to the parents of those who were now waiting on the eastern side of the Jordan River, preparing to enter the land. Just as Moshe had taught their parents God's Torah, he now wanted to help the children, the newer generation, to also become intimately familiar with God's Torah. As such, the Torah accordingly used the word be'er to intimate to us Moshe's desire to review and clarify the laws for the younger generation, before it would be too late to do so. The Malbim says something similar, but not because they were the younger generation. Moshe had taught all generations equally throughout all the years Israel was in the desert. Rather, Moshe was now reviewing the Torah with all Israel in order to make sure that the Torah would be crystal clear to anyone and everyone before he would pass on. Perhaps, though, this word be'er is meant to remind us of the other be'er, a well of water, meaning that Moshe's farewell address must be comparable in some way to a well of water. How so? For starters, Chazal tell us that the Torah is comparable to water. Just as water is a source for life, so is the Torah. Where does the water for a well come from? It comes from the groundwaters. How do we build a well? We need to map out an area and then start to dig. Perhaps we will find water, or perhaps not. To build a well requires a lot of effort and can take a while until the water source is complete and usable. It is a long process. So perhaps by using the word be'er, the Torah was hinting that this was the beginning of a long public discourse, in fact, 37 days long. Or perhaps it was supposed to remind us that the process of constructing a well requires careful examination every step of the way before the well will become usable. As such, the Netziv says that using the word be'er was hinting that Moshe was going to now teach Israel the foundation of exegesis, of how to carefully examine and interpret the Torah in all its minutiae such that it can truly become a living document and a blueprint for a life of holiness. Rav David Tzvi Hoffman remarks that just as the act of digging leaves a permanent mark on its surroundings, Moshe's address to Israel will also be something that would leave a permanent mark. And what would be more permanent than to write down the Torah to make sure that Israel and the world would forever have it? Perhaps by using the word be'er, the Torah is trying to hint to both explanations. Just like by a well, one needs to dig deeper and deeper, exposed level by level, until one hits pay dirt, when there is nothing clearer than the water coming out of a well. So too would be Moshe's farewell address to Israel, which is the book of Devarim. As Moshe progressed on, he dug deeper and deeper, at times revisiting the same story again and again, but each time with a different layer and from a different perspective, hoping to shed light and making the Torah's message crystal clear before it was his time to leave. Shabbat Shalom.